it's like an antenna for the plants to capture more light.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so traditionally, photosynthesis is not very efficient because only 4% of light is being captured and being converted into chemical energy through photosynthesis process. And what we do is with this material, the plant can actually capture more light. Can be more as much as 20% of light is being absorbed and captured.
That's 5 times more.
Yeah. So that's why the photosynthesis is more efficient.
The following is a long open conversation with Chee Hoe Chor, co-founder of Qarbotech. We had the chance to sit and talk about many topics, like his journey from aircraft engineering to creating startups, the difference of many kind of investors across the APAC region, and the importance of investment in seed stage companies. This is On the Long with FVR podcast. If you like this thing, feel free to like and subscribe and to contribute to the channel on the description below. And now with y'all, Chee Hoe Chor. The time is counting. Can you imagine that on Saturday is going to be another federal holiday? Like the Malaysia holiday?
Yes. Malaysia Day.
I mean, to me, it's a little troublesome because every time there's a holiday, Pence is closed.
Oh,
so no
then-
restaurant, no 50% discount.
ha.
So it's like, what can I do? I need to find another place. Well, I guess we can start right now.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode on the Long with FVR. Today we have Chee Hoe. Thanks for doing it, man.
Hi. Nice meeting you again.
That's right. We have the opportunity to finally record here at the building with a very nice architecture and such a very sunny day outside. So sunny that I'm right now still sweating. But yes, so people may be watching and they will say, what is the story about this person? So can you tell us a little more about yourself?
So my name is Chee Hoe. I'm the current co-founder and also the CEO of Qarbotech, an agri-tech startup. And of course, I'm a graduate of Asia School of Business. I'm from the class of 2020. Yeah, so that's why I know Fabian.
Oh yeah.
And before joining ASB, Asia School of Business, I was an aircraft maintenance engineer. So I work with Firefly Airlines. And I joined the MBA program of Asia School of Business with the hope of maybe pivoting to a new role, but I was thinking still in the aviation industry. But after graduating, I'm graduated with my startup, another baby,
Oh.
and in agriculture space. Yeah.
So-
quite unexpected actually.
Indeed, because somebody who hears aircraft engineer, it sounds like you're dealing with planes.
Yes.
Sometimes you're a pilot. So what an aircraft engineer usually do?
Yeah, so my role as an aircraft maintenance engineer during my early career days, I was the one who would ensure the aircraft is fit to fly. So we did a lot of maintenance, inspection, checking, even overhaul of certain components, and we have regular maintenance schedule, meaning we did regular check for certain inspection and check, and we do have a day-to-day servicing job, like servicing a particular system of the aircraft, do the flushing of the fluids, top up lubricating oils. So all these are the tasks that I did daily during the early career. Then as I move up the career ladder, then I was more like having this supervisory role, guiding the technicians and the junior engineers to carry out all the maintenance job, and also as a whole make sure the aircraft is fit to fly. So we call it a certificate to release to service, meaning we have our signature onto the logbook of the aircraft to ensure that the aircraft is safe to be flown by the pilots. And then being an aircraft maintenance engineer, my role is not only maintaining the aircraft but also managing the maintenance team, like leading the maintenance team and delegating tasks, because aircraft is huge and we have different teams doing different system or different parts of the aircraft. So we need to have this managing role to tie everyone together to make sure the progress actually synchronize, because certain system of the aircraft you need the particular team to complete certain tasks, then the next team can proceed on another component or another system. So we need to really make sure the seamless transition across different units and different zones. And those were I would say the first 6 to 8 years of my career. I was involved in orders, and then I was transitioned to supply chain management, whereby I managed the aircraft spares, parts, overhaul parts, more like the supply chain management, but for the aviation context. And then I also got the exposures to do business development, because that time Firefly Airlines was setting up like a new business arm to commercialize their own in-house maintenance services to other airlines. So I'm very fortunate I got the chance to be the early group or early team to commercialize and do the business development for the Firefly's engineering. We call it MRO services, like maintenance, repair, and overhaul services. It's like, I would say, like a startup by nature, because it's a new business unit and we need to get our customers, we need to pitch to other airlines. So I think the earlier career experiences actually gave me the foundation of entrepreneurship. Yeah.
So, MROs, the opportunity to go across many other airplanes, and the spec of entrepreneurship were very early during that time of your life. And the question arises when you were doing all this business development and all the maintenance, what made you say this is the time to get an MBA?
Okay, so actually pandemic came with surprise, and during pandemic aviation industry was not doing very well, and that time of course the pay scheme, the allowances were being withdrawn, and rather than spending my time relaxing without doing anything meaningful in the aviation industry, I thought maybe it's time to do some personal development thing, maybe to further my study, and that's why I was considering MBA or other opportunities to upgrade myself. And that, of course, I did a lot of survey across different universities who are offering MBA, and SB is the best. That's why I ended up with applying the MBA with SB.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because you want to put some investment for your personal development and you want a return of investment from that regard. And I have to ask, given that you were taking this journey, I need to ask you from the very early beginning, how was the world where you were living in when you were growing up? Like, how was that childhood time? Because I want to understand how that little child decided to say, let's do aircraft engineering. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm grown up in a very traditional Chinese family. Malaysian Chinese family. So my parents are very conventional. They were looking at my grades basically. I need to be the performer in school, or I need to be really disciplined, follow the rules, and at the back of my mind, I was having this rebellious self, and I was trying to do things differently out of the regime of my parents. So, for example, I was very active in extracurricular activities, because through all these activities, I have valid reasons to inform my parents I'm doing something different, because it's part of the extracurricular activities. And but my parents, they were very supportive in whatever things that I do, because they are grown up in the early 60s, 70s, right? And their world, their experiences were very different from my experiences. So that's why they are looking for stability in your career, in your job. So from young, they sort of like implanted in me, okay, you need to be someone that is having a stable job, stable income, and that's why I think engineer sort of naturally came into my mind. I aspired to be an engineer. And Yeah, so that's my childhood, I think. And also, this is slightly related to why I pivoted into my current startup. I remember during my, I think, standard four, meaning when I was about 10 years old, that time in Kuala Lumpur itself, we had really terrible haze issue. Yeah, so I think every year, maybe during the month of September, October, the KL city itself will be like really hazy. So I was having bad asthma back then. So I think I remember that time during my standard four, meaning I was 10 years old. I didn't go to school for about 3 months because I had to stay indoor.
Wow,
Yep.
that's a lot of
Yeah,
time.
yep. So my asthma was really bad, and that's why I think those experiences sort of like implanted in me that I want to do something maybe good for the environment and reducing maybe pollutants from the air, creating more oxygen for all of us to breathe. And that's why I think that naturally implanted in me, and also part of the reason why I pivoted into a different industry, trying to do something related to sustainability and environment. Yeah, by running the current startup.
So you're right now running a startup, Qarbotech. So how did you came up with that name to begin with?
Okay, so actually the first semester in ASB, I met my founder, Dr. Sraya. So she's from University Putra, Malaysia. So it's actually the action learning team who connected me and also some other batchmates in my cohort to different researchers in University Putra, Malaysia. So at that time we were thinking of the commercial expertise of SB with the technological expertise from UPM. We could have good synergy to bring some of the inventions that are invented in Malaysia to the business competition. Yeah, so at that time the action learning director Samaji was the one who actually
Oh yeah.
bridged us with the UPM researchers. So I met Dr. Sraya from that collaboration in a way, but because Dr. Sraya registered her company back in 2018, so it didn't fulfill like a certain criteria of the competition, so we didn't proceed further. But I got to know her, and I was like really mesmerized by her work, her research work, and her invention. Then during one of the course, marketing management, I suggested to my team to use her product as the case study for our marketing management assignment.
Yes.
And through that assignment, I got more engagement sessions with her, and we also work on some marketing insights from the aspect of the product and from other aspect, and we compile. I mean, our team compiled a really good report to show to her, and she was impressed by our work. Of course, she's not only connected to me but also other teammates in my team. And then until the summer associate program, like sometime in May of the following year, it's like the third semester. Then she invited me to be part of Qarbotech and to apply for certain competition, business competition. Then of course I said yes because I was mesmerized by the technology itself, because the technology itself can fulfill my personal why, like reducing the carbon dioxide from the air and generate more oxygen for us to breathe. So I said yes to her. Then we took part in some competitions, and then we won in many competitions. So that was like validating moments for me and also for her. And yeah, that's how I become the co-founder of Qarbotech. So actually, it's not myself who came up with the name. Dr. Sraya actually named this startup Qarbotech because of the material that we are dealing with.
Oh, okay.
So we actually have this very specific, novel and green process of producing a material called carbon quantum dots. So it's a carbon nanomaterial. So carbon quantum dots, because of the carbon, so we have carbo, And why it's not C but Q is because of the quantum dots. So we take the
Right.
Q from the carbon quantum dots and make it into Qarbotech, start with the Q. Yeah.
That's a very singular story about how to write to the startup or how the startup comes along the name. And you mentioned a particular technology. I bet right now there's been a lot of time and patents, things like that. Maybe you would like to tell us a little more about that technology and what it does.
So just like I mentioned about this material called carbon quantum dots. So this material is not something that Dr. Sraya and I, we are not the one who come up with this new material. This material has been there for ages.
Oh, okay.
Just that other players are producing these materials using harsh chemicals and not biocompatible processes. And Dr. Sraya, through her research, she invented a new and green process that can produce this carbon quantum dots material. And because of the process is green, it's biocompatible. That's why we are exploring to use this material in agriculture. Because based on her expertise and her knowledge, she felt that this material has great opportunity to use in enhancing photosynthesis for plants because of the characteristic of the material itself. So the characteristic of this material is not only that it's photoluminescent, and also it's help electron transfer. Yeah, it
Okay.
helps in electron transfer mechanism. So how it does is that, especially in the plant application, when we spray this material onto plant leaves, so this material is being absorbed by the chloroplast. So it can, because it's nano-sized, it can penetrate the leaves.
Okay.
And at the chloroplast level, this particular material is helping the electron transfer mechanism of the photosynthesis. And because of the photoluminescent property of this material, it helps to capture UV light range, convert it into the spectrum that the plant can actually utilize to photosynthesize.
So it is in a way that we are externally stimulating the plant to create a better photosynthesis, right?
Yeah, so it's not really stimulant, but it's, I would say, it's like an antenna for the plants to capture more light.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so traditionally, photosynthesis is not very efficient because only 4% of light is being captured and being converted into chemical energy through photosynthesis process. And what we do is with this material, the plant can actually capture more light. Can be more as much as 20% of light is being absorbed and captured.
That's 5 times more.
Yeah. So that's why the photosynthesis is more efficient.
Now, I'm led to believe that 5 times more absorption of light will lead to 5 times more output. But this is the assumption of the ideal perpetual machine. In the real world, we don't have that kind of in and out output. So, which has been the constraints of this new Qarbotech on the plants? Like, have you seen any side effects, or have you encountered any push to say, wait a second, what are we doing with the plants?
So we are very confident with the material because it's carbon based and we derive it from agro waste. So meaning we, in our production process, we don't have any additive, we don't use any harsh chemicals. So it's mainly a green process to derive the material from waste, from agro waste. So we are using empty fruit bunch biochar from the palm oil industry. So that's one, because our confidence of the material. And second, we actually sent our product samples to do a lot of biocompatibility tests, like non-toxicity tests. So we even fed our material to zebrafish, to white rats. So we engaged a third party, like a tester, like we sent to this third party lab to do all these tests. So they did on animals. They even tested the toxicity of the material. So we have done the basic tests required in Malaysia to make sure that this product is safe and can roll out to the market. So that part is already done. Yeah. And when you talk about any other side effects or in terms of let's say, maybe improper usage of the material, for example. Um, because the material it's agro waste, so typically it's safe to be even like if you want to drink it like that, yeah, it's safe to do so. But
Okay.
in terms of the maybe side effects on the plant, if you are using at a very high concentration, it may create like a light inhibition of the plant, meaning the light, the plant is like, oh, okay, too much of light, it's enough, so I shut down. So it will cause stress to the plant or even causes the plant to experience some abnormalities. So that's why the dosage or the concentration that you use is very important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very important that you are disclosing that because somebody will say, if I put this dose and it gives me 5 times, give or take, if I give it more, I'm supposed to get more, but it's like just trying to push the.
Yeah, you're pushing too hard, for
Exactly.
example, then you will have the negative impact. So that's why on our product label we have this recommendation on how to use. So make sure you don't use the extra dosage or highly concentrated version on the plants.
Now,
It will kill the
I
plant.
believe that one thing is the idea, another thing is the product. But in any other startup, in any other business, scale also matters. So, how did you answer that little question when you have the market that they see there is a case, but you cannot produce too much because the quality, the scale itself, how are the takes right now?
Yeah, so we started off back in I think 2021. We were still at a very small lab scale. So mainly Dr. Straya and her team were producing this material in a small lab in the university. And then in end of December, I think December 2021, we got our pre-seed funding. So we were able to upscale our production using like a bigger lab to produce that. So even like until now, our production capacity per month is about 2,000 liters. So not huge capacity, but enough to cater for about 20 smallholder farmers. So with all these trial data from the smallholder farmers and validation from them, and even some revenue traction, so we are able to close our fundraising to upscale our production capacity to even make it like a bigger pilot plant. So we are envisioning 50 times of our current capacity, meaning we are able to produce 100,000 liters per month at our pilot plant. So the pilot plant will be fully functional in April next year.
And this is only the pilot.
Yeah, this is only the pilot plant.
So I'm led to believe that given the competitions and given that right now a lot of people want to put money in startups that can actually have the place, but they only need help to grow exponentially. I'm led to believe that Qarbotech has been exposed to this, like this kind of competitions to acquire more funding because that's how it grows. So how has been that? How has been the experience of the fundraising?
Okay, I would say during the early days, like I started this back in May 2021, during my study in in ASB, the third semester. So that time we were having nothing, meaning no farm data, no validation from farmers, and we were quite lucky because by participating in some business competition, we got the attention from different investors, and that was why we able to secure our first pre-seed funding from a Singaporean early stage VC. And through that funding, we were able to hire our staff and then did more trials at different commercial farms. So we did trials at vegetable farms, fruit farms, even on paddy field. And we were very fortunate to work with some trusted partners, even like Aerodyne, the number one drone service provider in the world. So we collaborated with them using their drone to spray our liquid onto paddy field, and we have got certain good results after using our product. And because of all these results, then we were able to got our recent investment from another VC. So of course, now looking back, we were really struggling last year because that time when we were still waiting for validation data from the farms and we were really low on cash, we were at the stage that even we want to lay off our staff because we couldn't pay them. So our runway is like less than 1 month. And then at that stage, we were really lucky because we secured an angel investment from two Singaporeans. They are my family's relatives, friends in Singapore. So they were very supportive. They were working in biotech space, so they really understand our struggle. Because we are in this agri-tech, we are dealing with plants. We are not really like those digital app startup where you can really scale exponentially within a short time. We need to wait for the plants to react, collect data. So everything needs to be step by step. We need to wait. So fortunately, we got their support, and things were better after they came in as our investors. So when we have more data from the farm trials, all this validation actually sort of like fast-tracked us into plantation. So we pitched to different plantation, secure different trial with different entities. So all this data are really valuable for us to pitch to our future customers. So the journey is like step by step, and it has like a lot of things need to be patient. Yeah, so that sums up our.
That's a keyword, patience.
Yes.
But it's like you don't have to rush, but also you don't have to be very slow. And also something very important that you mentioned about the fundraising in the seed stage, which is very different from the fundraising post seed stage.
Yeah.
How many stories we heard about a startup that says it's only about a good narrative and they get this valuation, and once they start having revenue, then the valuation diminishes because now you see the tangibles. Here in Qarbotech, we see that the evidence is self-sustaining. The only problem that was at the beginning was, hey, we need to expand this. And number two, it takes time. So you mentioned about these plantations willing to have the product. I bet it's a different kind of pitch than the one that you see in those competitions.
Yes.
So how is the pitching to somebody who owns a lot of land and is like, okay, let's do this in our plantations? How is that experience? The experience of pitching.
So I would say it's more like setting the context right. So we informed our these potential partners that we are an early stage startup, and we are here to listen to them to understand their pain points. So for example, we ask a lot of questions. We want to know what are the current issues that they are facing, because like in Malaysia in particular, we have monsoon season in the end of every year, and during this monsoon season, the cloudy weather, the overcast weather actually causes the plant yield to drop because plants are not exposing to sufficient sunlight. So these are the common pain points that they have. And our solution, our technology can help the plants to capture more light even during the overcast weather. So by understanding their pain point, then we have the anchor to actually sell or to pitch about our product. So yes, very different from all this pitching competition, because all this pitching competition, you have this structure, what to pitch, what could be the areas that the judges will be looking at. But for plantation, business is business. You need to understand their business. You need to know what is their pain point, what is the economical benefits for them. Yeah, so all these are really the keys to impress them.
And it's very important that you're mentioning this because this is not discussed in class. When you hear the competition, the metrics, but here is like very customized checklist based on which are the pain points or the roadblocks that the client in particular has, and the pitch is like a resume. The pitch is very different from one client to another.
Yes, very different. Meaning, like every plantation or every farmer that we meet, we need to first understand their pain point. Then only we pitch according to how our solution can address their pain point. Yeah, so it's like very different. Like every day we meet different farm, different plantation. The pain points may be quite similar, but maybe because of their SOP are different, then we need to tailor our solution to their
Correct me
pain
if I
point.
am wrong, but you mentioned an acronym that I'm still unfamiliar. What is an SOP?
Oh, so it's like the standard operating procedures or standard operating
Ah,
practices of the
okay.
farms. Yeah, so like some farms they do their spraying every week. Some farms they do every 2 weeks. So in order not to incur additional spraying costs or manpower costs to them, we need to align how can we fit into their schedule. Meaning like mixing our solution in their current inputs, yeah, and how to recommend them to spray without changing much of their standard practices.
Now, I believe there was also some resistance from some plantation owners. So, which was the argument that was still absent during that conversation that made them so resistant?
So I would say we faced some resistance in the early days when we directly pitched to some farmers to explain about the technology, the potential increase in yield, the improvement in photosynthesis rate, because we were just like a stranger to them, right? Because we are not tapping on their current network or community. We just went straight, talked to them, pitched them. So we faced that resistance because of the trust. Maybe because a lot of fertilizer companies were approaching them, trying to sell them product, and they don't see the products are effective, so they have this resistance. So our reason approach, we usually will connect with like a key opinion leader in the community, maybe the um, expert in that particular crops. So we engage with this expert. We sort of like explain our technology and the benefits to the farmers. And through all this key opinion leader, then we have the access to different communities. So meaning the farmers already has certain trust with this key opinion leader. Then it's easier for us to penetrate through them rather than we directly go to the farmer and talk to them, explain to them.
Yes, it makes the sense of going after that person that is a multiplier effect in a given community.
Yes.
It also sounds like you are trying to identify the influencer of that community.
Yes, yes, yes.
And
Because in farming communities, they are very closely connected and they are not really that savvy on social media. So they rely on this expert to give them advice. If let's say they face any challenges on the crops, they will refer back to this expert. Yeah, so I would say when one farmer actually have buy into your product, then he will also recommend the product to other farmers within the communities. So yeah, it's very different in other industry, I would say.
and Carbotech right now is available in which parts of Malaysia, or only East Malaysia, West Malaysia? Where can you find it?
So Qarbotech, we have home gardening products and we have commercial farms product. It's still using our core technology. So for the home gardening products, you can actually find us on Shopee, and our customers are everywhere for Malaysia. Yeah, Peninsula Malaysia, even Sabah Sarawak. And for the commercial farms product, we have certain communities who are using our product in Pahang, in Johor, Selangor, Melaka, and some from the Kelantan and Terengganu. So for commercial farms product, we usually rely on our distributors network. So we don't have like e-commerce platform where any farmer can buy our product. So we go through distributors because we believe that these distributors are the influencers to all these communities. So they actually fast track us to all these farming communities where we can get customers like really quick. And because of their offerings, because our distributors, they are not only offering our product, but they are also offering other services to the farmers. For example, seeds. For example, other agricultural inputs. And some distributors even help some farmers to create higher value of their crop, meaning They connect them with food processing facilities,
Okay.
food manufacturing facilities, meaning the farmers are no longer just selling fresh produce, but selling a higher price processing food or processing fresh produce. Yeah.
Oh, so it's a full involvement into the supply chain.
Yes, yes, yes. So it's like what we offer, it's
Yeah.
end to end to the farmers.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, meaning the farmers can get seeds from our ecosystem partner, can engage drone for spraying onto their field, and can engage our partner to process their raw material or fresh produce into processed food and sell it overseas.
So that's the added value of
Yep.
being in a contact with Qarbotech. So that's some like a differentiator that literally people
yep.
say, yeah, there is value, and
Like what we learn in MBA, right?
Uh-huh.
Value creation. What is
Exactly.
the maximum value creation that we can bring to the customer?
because people would say, yeah, like you're doing an MBA, like everybody does an MBA, but why you different from the other? It's because you're offering this added value that has a tangible effect. In this
Yep.
case, the supply chain effect of
Yes, yes,
Qarbotech
yes.
allows to have this end-to-end product. Still in this conversation about Qarbotech, I'm led to believe that there are plans to go beyond. So can you tell us a little more about what is going to be Qarbotech in the near future?
Okay, so now Qarbotech is more focusing on the agriculture sector. But actually, our carbon quantum dots material can have multiple applications. So a lot of R&D are still ongoing, but I can share one example. So we embedded this carbon quantum dots material in the structure of dye-sensitized solar cell to improve the efficiency of the solar cell. And based on our POC of this dye-sensitized solar cell embedded with our material, the efficiency improved by 70%. So dye-sensitized solar cell, it's quite different from the current semiconductor-based solar cell on our rooftop. So this dye-sensitized solar cell can actually be part of the window, like a tinted kind of covering of film onto the window to generate electricity even at low light ambient. So we see huge potential in the future market of this dye-sensitized solar cell, and that's why we are heavily investing our resources on the R&D on that angle.
I believe that can also dramatically change the way buildings have their architecture.
Yes. Yep.
Because now with this film allows them to get electricity. Even AC can be also discussed, and it's like a way to get people having a different experience. All of a sudden, a building is not just something that is rectangular or gives you shelter.
Yes.
Also give you
Example, like you look at all these windows in Asia School of Business, if they can be covered with the dye-sensitized solar cell, it can generate a lot more electricity, perhaps enough just to supply for the school.
alone,
Yep.
which is a good backup in the case like, oh, look at that, all of a sudden the power grid is not helping enough, or everybody now gets an AC and the power grid cannot deliver. That happens in other places. Now, this is going on right now in Malaysia, but I bet Qarbotech may have some competitors in the region that I may not be aware because I'm still learning about this. So, how is the regional landscape in this regard?
So our photosynthesis enhancer is actually the first and only in the world. I mean, as of now, we are the only one in the market. So the closest competitor is actually a Mexican startup. So they are producing also quantum dots, but their quantum dots is actually metal-based quantum dots. So they are using the quantum dots in film, and the film is used as the greenhouse shielding. So the usage is limited to greenhouse, but because our quantum dots are biocompatible, we can actually spray it in open fields, spray direct onto plants. Yeah, so their quantum dots in terms of the film, it's also able to increase the photosynthesis rate of plants, but it's like really limited to the greenhouse application.
Yeah, that's the difference between a product that is very niche versus a product actually has a wide implementation spectrum, which is something that really helps when you want to commercialize. Now, patents. I believe they are patents.
Yes.
And is somebody watching right there? Oh, look at that! Patents is like something like a goodwill, something that you just write it off. But this is also a huge asset. So, from a startup that is dealing with patents, how has been their relationship with them?
So our invention or the patent, it's actually filed under University Putra Malaysia. So Qarbotech has the exclusive licensing right to use this patent to produce our material. Of course, even though the patent is filed under UPM, but actually the invention is my founder, Dr. Suraya's research work. So because of currently, just recently we are able to close our fundraising, and we have enough funding to buy out the IP from the university. So after this, the IP will be with Qarbotech. I mean, the ownership of the IP will be Qarbotech, and then we do foresee that we can file more foreground IPs on the variation of the process and some variation maybe in different user case. So definitely Qarbotech will have more IPs in the future.
That's a powerful statement, because how many times we hear about startups that, oh yes, we have the intellectual property, but no, you're not. Like somebody else actually have it, and they are making the revenue, or they get a take of every single selling that you're having. So that's actually very good, especially because there will be a time, if everything goes well, that you will consider an IPO, and it's like, okay, this can be an asset, especially because you will have a board of governors to say it's time to do some share buybacks or to pay dividends. That's something in the future that Qarbotech can consider, but it sounds very, very encouraging. Now, let's take a little step back, and from the human point of view, how is dealing with a co-founder? How is helping the technical side with the business side? How is assembling the team? How easy or how difficult has been?
So my founder, Dr. Suraya, because she's a chemical engineer, so I'm also an engineer. So I think we sort of like speak the same language, and that's why we are able to click, and we really can work well together. Our work ethics are quite similar. We work really hard for the startup, and I would say communication is the key. Yeah, we communicate like every day. I talk to her even more than I talk to my wife and my kids. And regarding the team, we have quite a small team for now, and of course we are hiring. So for now we have 3 full-time staff. Beside both of us, we have another 3 full-time staff and 1 part-time staff. So they are mainly helping in the production and operations. So like the sales and business development work, I'm the one who is doing that. So I would say to deal with such a small team, you really need to spend time to build a relationship, because they are our early employees, they are part of the startup. We also need to reward them accordingly. So we have this ESOP option for them, meaning they will be holding certain shares of Qarbotech as well. And also need to really cater and take care of their needs, meaning what is their career aspiration, what is the career path for them, the room for them to grow. So all this really need to plan, communicate, and also execute. Yeah, so I think for now we are quite fortunate to have good staff, good employees to really believe in our vision and work really hard together with us to achieve that.
It's very, I would say, refreshing that a Malaysian startup is actually giving shares to
Really?
uh, their employees. How many times I heard about companies that they say, we don't give shares in our compensation to our employees, and it's like, wait a second, but you're already an IPO. Like you're supposed. Why are you not giving those? So it's like a kind of like a red flag. If your company is not giving a stock, what is going on? I mean, what is going on? I mean, this is, I would say, very refreshing one, and also too, the communication, so important, and it also reminds me that there are moments that working overtime is justified, and I believe that in these early stages, that there is so much promise, especially because the product is tangible. You feel like, and at the same time, you need to be self-aware that you need to push the brake because you are pushing too much. So how you deal with that? How you deal with the overtime and then the breaks to always go the distance?
You mean myself personally or the
It
employees?
can be both. It can be
Okay,
both.
so I would say we are quite lucky because our employees understand sometimes the urgencies of certain work matter or certain replies. So even after the working hours, they are responsive. They actually report their progress even after the office hour, like to meet certain deadlines or some urgent work matters. So that's why we reward them with the ESOP and all that. And for myself personally, uh, I'm still trying to balance actually because a lot of things are happening recently, a lot of trials, a lot of tasks and potential investors who are reaching out to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so uh, like my plate is really full for now. Uh, that's why like I think we scheduled this session for quite some time because it's like my schedule is really packed. So I'm still trying to balance that, but ultimately it's just setting your priorities. Yeah. So like what are the important matters? What are the important stuff? So learning to set priorities it's is something really important. Yeah. So also not to forget to schedule some time for the family. Yeah. Although my wife is really supportive, still you have to be there for the kids, for her. Yeah.
Now, given that you have been in Cambridge, you have been also in Malaysia, I believe you have been also in other places. So I want to ask you, which has been the little differences you have seen in these regions, both from your personal point of view and also from the business point of view?
So maybe I would say let me compare Boston, Japan, and also Malaysia, or maybe Singapore, for example. So Malaysia, especially like when we were looking for potential investors, they look at your traction and revenue. Because for a deep tech startup like us, we are not having huge revenue because a lot are still in the trial stage, validation, and also making progress. So we were struggling when we pitched to Malaysian potential investors, and that's why we got our first early stage investor actually from Singapore, and the angel investor also from Singapore. Because in Singapore, I would say the environment it's more encouraging for tech startup, biotech, agri-tech, or even deep tech startup. They really need understand that it takes time for deep tech startup to generate revenue or traction. So it's more like understanding different persona of investor across different region. And I know that in Boston, they are even more aggressive, meaning they are really appreciating the potential of the technology and the potential of the deep tech startup, even without any revenue. They are okay to invest. But strategically, since Qarbotech is a Malaysian startup and we are expanding regionally, so we are also looking for strategic partners or strategic investors who are within this region. Yep.
You mentioned also about Japan.
Yeah. So Japan, they have extensive government grant. So instead of looking for investors, if you have a Japanese registered entity in the technology space, you can easily apply for technological grant from the
Okay.
government. So their support is extensive. I mean the government support. As long as you have an idea You want to validate it with technology, you want to do research, the grant is available. They are not questioning about your commercialization, your revenue, your traction. So very different environment there.
It's very important that you mention how the landscape is in Japan, because I'm also aware that bankruptcy laws are also different. And in Japan, if your company is bankrupt, then you have to pay some time in county. And it's like those little things are very important when you are either establishing a company or fundraising a company. Also, the different personas, the different investors, so valuable to hear, because maybe a region can be the same, but you have three different personas.
True, very true.
Now, in that regard, there were decisions that you had to make. I want to ask you, across this journey, which was the most challenging compromise you did?
I would say it's maybe letting an early employee to resign, because back then we had this staff, a digital marketer, and because initially we engaged her, it's to do only digital marketing. Yeah, but as the operations of the business progress, and we feel that digital marketing role is not really crucial. What we want is business development, and what we want it's more like a salesperson. So we changed her role and responsibilities, and she couldn't adapt to it, and then she resigned. Yeah, so I think that is quite because she's a good talent. She is very supportive. Just that at that time, maybe the business activities were not really benefiting her or fulfilling her needs in her career path. So, yeah, so her resignation is something that I think it's quite unpleasant in my journey with Qarbotech. Yeah.
It's true that when you have a challenging decision, a compromise has to be done. And to be honest, I'm happy that you actually are disclosing this, because that means that you live. So many times I hear about other people that say, "Oh, I don't have any regrets," and it's like, that's a red flag. Of course, you have some compromise. Of course, you did a compromise. You don't want to share that because obvious reasons. But it's true. It's so difficult to let a talent go, because it's like, where were the gaps that we couldn't met, or chances are things were out of control. Who knows? But besides the entrepreneurial person that we have here, also there is a human person. So how do you take care of yourself? Like, how is the diet? How is the exercise? Because a lot of people hear, okay, the entrepreneurs are doing this, but they also need to take a look at themselves, and it's like, health, so important. So how has been your recipe so far?
I would say, of course, there were certain times that you really work 24/7 for your startup because a lot of things were happening. And there were times that you can slightly relax a bit and schedule more exercise in your routine. So I know that personal well-being is something really important to keep me in the long term, like still running this startup. So intentionally, I schedule a certain time of the week to have a walk in the garden with my kids, to run around my neighborhood. So those are like intentionally planned into my schedule. So meaning that block time is specifically for my exercise, specifically for my family activities. So really need to have that discipline to schedule that and follow through. Also, of course, I would say running a business is for someone that really can take on that challenge, right? A lot of sacrifices that you need to make, like time to spend with your friend, with your maybe your relative. Sometimes you need to skip important wedding dinners of your friend just to have time to complete your work tasks. And sometimes you need to skip gathering with your friends, and sometimes I skip a lot of like all these activities and networking opportunities of ASB as well. That's why again setting priorities. And in terms of dealing with stress, I think I have a very good support system. My wife and my family, they are very understanding. So they are my like the strongest support whenever I have any stressful conditions, or at least they can be my listener, and they can actually offer me some fresh perspective regarding some maybe block or maybe some obstacle that I face. So they offer comfort to me. They offer a different perspective. So I think having a really strong support system is something that every, not only entrepreneur, but everyone needs. Yeah.
This is powerful because you are showing a human side that is like, hey, I'm not perfect. I need help. My family, I need a support system. And it's a very touching moment because this really humanizes the so-called hero that we have in entrepreneurship books. And there has to be more disclosed and more discussed because the physical health, the mental health, the psychological health, the family health is so paramount because you're building this. Building takes energy, and it's like not only on your business but also for your family as you are watching your kids to grow. And I believe that there are also some people that will be watching this. Among them, there are going to be some young jockeys watching this as well. So I want to ask you, what a piece of advice will you give to your younger self?
I would say just go with the flow, because like how I came to ASB, how I was actively trying different things or different projects in ASB. I just go with the flow and I grab every opportunities that I could. Try to experience the most. So I would say just go with the flow. And if let's say some opportunities just come up, just grab it and just try your best to do it. Then you will get the opportunity to learn more about yourself. Where are your strengths? What are the things that you are doing really well, and what are the things that probably you need more improvement? And perhaps from all these different opportunities, you will also know what is your interest, what is your areas of focus, what is really like something that it's can ignite your passion. What are the areas that you are passionate about? So I think just immerse yourself with all the opportunities around you and go with the flow.
I cannot find a better way to close this episode. Chee Hoe, how can people find you?
Can try to reach me on LinkedIn. Just type my name, Chor Chee Hoo. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, and then we can have a chat.
Man, thank you very much.
Thank
I really
you.
enjoyed
Thank
doing
you,
this.
Fabian.
And for people out there, please stay safe and see you when I see you. Bye.